There will be times when you're in the middle of combat when your GM will say to you, "What is your fortitude DC? What is your diplomacy DC? What is your will DC?" All these things might seem a little bit confusing if you're new to Pathfinder, but it's really easy to come up with these numbers. And let's go ahead and try and figure that out. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. Before we dive into the details, let's quickly review what a difficulty class is for those who are new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The actual definition from the book is the number you need to succeed at a check. To generate a DC from a modifier, like the Perception DC, add 10 to the modifier. We're going to kind of go through a couple examples of that in this video, but that is a good starting definition of what a difficulty class is. The DC is a value used by the GM to determine how difficult performing a task may be, or how difficult a save may be for the player or for the creatures. The creatures have the same type of stat block that you might, and once again, we'll show that as well. But it applies to both, and the same rules do apply. So if you understand it from the player side, you'll understand it from the creature side as well. It's a number that you need to meet or beat to succeed at a given task. A DC can be applied to many aspects of the game. Saving throws, skill checks, pretty much most of the time that you are rolling a D20 against something, or a creature is rolling a D20 against you, that is going to be a difficulty class. It's determined by the stat block listing of what you are trying to overcome, or the game master will be looking at the stat blocks from the creature in order to determine what the DC would be, and can range from very easy to nearly impossible. Let's go ahead and cover calculating a DC. So when you attempt to do something, you compare your results against a difficulty class. When someone or something else attempts to check against you, the difficulty class is something that the system has in place so that you aren't both rolling against each other and just kind of playing which one can get the higher number. This is a static block that actually represents your character by representing their skills, their ability scores, things that are part of the character, rather than just totally leaving it up to random chance. And the GM is going to compare the results of the creature against your fixed DC based on the relevant statistic. The DC for any given statistic is always going to be 10 plus the total modifier for that statistic. We'll go ahead and start with a few of these. So let's say that you had to give the GM what your class DC was. The class DC sets the difficulty for certain abilities granted by just happen to being a fighter or just happen to being a rogue. They are things that are pretty much part of you being part of that class. The DC equals 10 plus their proficiency bonus for their class. In most cases, for a first level character, that is going to be +3 plus the modifier for the class's key ability score. So if you were a fighter who was strength based, it would be strength. If it was a fighter who was dex based, it would be dexterity. And in simple terms, that's all a class DC is. Let's go ahead and cover some of the other ones you might come across pretty regularly. So we'll bring up this little stat block here, and we'll cover the saving throws. A fortitude DC is going to be that +8 +10. A reflex save is going to be that +6 +10. And a will save is going to be that +5 +10. Same thing for perception, that's sitting over there as well. If your GM asks you to roll, or asks you what your perception DC is, it would be +7 +10 or 17. This also applies to skill checks as well. But just to review what the modifier is, if you are untrained, your proficiency bonus is going to be 0. For a brand new level 1 character, you can either be trained or expert, but we're going to kind of base this on the trained version of it. So if you are trained at level 1, it is going to be level +2, which is going to equal 3. So you could add that to 10. If you are an expert at level 3, it would be level +4, or it would be 7 +10. Master at level 7 would be level +6 +10. And legendary at level 15, which would be level +8, which would be 23 +10. Those sound like very high numbers, but remember, we're talking about level 15 or level 7. And the DCs are going to scale as you build up in your levels, and the adventures you go on also build up in levels. If you look at some of the skills that show on the screen, once again, this is from a stat block for a particular character. If you want to find out the acrobatics DC, it would be 10 plus 4. But they are much better in athletics, so it would be 10 plus 7. Medicine would be a 10 plus 5. Let's go ahead and look at a creature stat block so you can see exactly what the GM is looking at. Now, I took out the name of this creature and just kind of put the stat block there. I don't want to give too many spoilers here, but just wanted to show you that the calculation works the same for creatures as it does for players. In this particular case, if you see perception, perception is plus 7, so that would be plus 7 plus 10, or 17 for this particular creature's perception DC. Be the same way for their skills. For Arcana, it would be 5 plus 10, or 15 for their Arcana DC. You'll also see that they have a Fortitude of plus 2, a Reflex of plus 5, and a Will of plus 9. For each one of those, their saving throw would be that number plus 10. So for example here, for Will, it would be 9 plus 10, or 19 for their Will DC. One thing I also wanted to show you by bringing up a creature stat block is they do have some cases where they'll have special actions that will have a DC assigned. In a lot of cases, if it does require a save, the DC is going to be listed in that particular creature spell. For here, it'd be for divine prepared spells, would be at a DC 17. Now, I hope this little quick tip for DC for players, or difficulty class for players, helps you out. I will be doing a calculating DC video as well. That's for GMs. And you know what? Players can look at it as well, because it's nice to know how these things are calculated. But that'll be in a later video. This one is really just for players. But I do hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.